I think we know already that worklessness, long-term unemployment in particular, varies from person to person, place to place in terms of its causes and its consequences. So if we are talking about strategic top-down solutions, they won't work. We know that from the past. What we really need to do is design programmes as close to communities and people as is possible, and that means establishing local partnerships to see what the issues are and to try and develop solutions around that. The worry I think I've got at the moment is that contracts are on a big regional level. If we're designing solutions there, they won't work because even within regions there are huge differences in terms of the context and the people that are being affected. So all the contractors need to be engaging not only each other in this process but local authorities and other local partners to see what needs to be done. If they don't, then it'll fail. I mean, there's no question about that. Now, to be fair, contractors are starting to explore those discussions, certainly with my authority, and I suspect elsewhere. But we can't have a position where someone can design something as we had in London previously, or in Leeds, as it might be in my region, and think you've got an answer to it, because you won't have. We need to get into that kind of detail, particularly in those high workless areas where we've got huge volumes of numbers.
I'm going to bring Harry in very briefly here at the moment.
Just a question for the Prince's Trust, because I know you work a lot with young people, helping them set up their own businesses. And do you think becoming sustainably self-employed ought to be an outcome that is paid for under the work programme?
Yes, I think it should be, and with most prime contractors we've been talking to, it is being treated as that. Some have a separate pathway for self-employment. But yes, I very much think so. I mean, some of the young people we support, and I particularly look at young offenders under this, self-employment is a really positive option for them. And a lot of the young people that we come across, they may not have the skills or qualifications for some employment pathways, but actually they're very entrepreneurial, and self-employment can be a really positive route. The slight difficulty we're coming across is the benefits question. When a person sets up in self-employment, it's a slow process to completely coming off benefits, and the young people we work with, despite quite intensive mentoring, may not get to that stage for kind of a couple of years or more. And that can obviously cause a little bit of tension through this programme, because a young person will be required to come completely off benefits. But I definitely see self-employment as having an option there, yeah.
Is the universal credit going to help with that, do you think?
Potentially, yes, and actually there's other programmes as well that are around that self-employment is an option for. So we're looking at, say, for example, the new enterprise allowance, which is a slightly different group of young people to those that will be coming through the work programme. Yeah.
Just to come back to the point about designing programmes and the black box approach, if we want to be innovative and if we want to develop solutions for individuals that have got complex needs, the providers don't have the services that are required for that. They lie in other agencies. So those other agencies need to be engaged in the process, one, to create new solutions, but obviously in the design process as well, right at the beginning. And if they're not involved, such as local authorities, health bodies, currently PCT, soon to be GP consortia or whatever it might be, all these need to be at the table in designing solutions. If you don't, then you'll lose the people that you're trying to bring back into the labour market.
Just following on that, I mean, everything we've heard to date, interesting though it is, and we're grateful for it, you're talking on past experience. And what we're going into is a completely new area. I mean, some of us dispute whether this is actually about welfare to work. I mean, it's something, it seems to me, of reducing the benefits bill. So how can you possibly put forward a programme when you don't know how many people you're going to have to deal with? You spoke about young people, people leaving prison. We all know that the people who are going to be most difficult to work with have a multiplicity of difficulties. They don't fit into neat boxes. So how can you possibly know what you're going to have to need to plan for as a programme when none of us know how many people are going to be coming through the door and how they're going to be coming through the door? And have you any idea at all of what the kind of costs are going to be?
Yeah, this is an issue for us actually in our negotiations with primes, in the sense that the flows that are being banded around and the projections being banded around seem very low to us. And the whole...
Sorry, what do you mean when you say the flows?
When I say the flows,
low,
the predicted number of referrals through the door, basically, when the work programme goes live.
Is that because there's going to be a slow start or a soft start?
Well, it's based on DWP projections. And we know, being a new deal provider at the moment, that the flows that are coming through our doors are that much higher than what's being predicted.
That's without all the new ones that are...
Yes, and therefore, when the work programme goes live, it raises all sorts of issues around planning, because simply we know that the chances are 2-3 months into the programme the numbers may go flying up.
But surely the bottom line here is the assessment of the individual.
Right.
I mean, people are going to be in danger of losing their benefit if they don't meet certain requirements. And what I'm asking you is, have you any idea at all of how many people that is going to bring through the door?
I mean, we certainly don't.
No.
And that's a huge factor for us, for the programme, is the vast quantity of unknowns. And for us, that's, I mean, we don't, I mean, we're a quite large voluntary organisation and we're quite well resourced. And even so, we don't necessarily know exactly the benefit groups that young people are in when they come to us, and there's a big cost difference there. We don't necessarily know the length of benefit claim that young people are when they come to us. We don't necessarily know the length of time that it takes for each young person in a particular benefit group to move into employment. So there are huge unknowns. And I mean, we are quite well resourced, and we have an evaluation team and we do monitoring. You know, we're quite reasonably well set up for this. Other voluntary providers, I can imagine, will have even less knowledge. So there's and that all equates to an enormous financial risk. We're positive about the programme because it offers, you know, it's large scale, and quite frankly we have to engage with it because not only does it represent such kind of big contracts, but also there's a real risk that we wouldn't be able to work with a lot of the young people that we do now and we do good work with now, because they'll go through the work programme and won't be available to us. So I think we feel, and I think other voluntary providers feel, that they have to engage with the work programme, but it may come with enormous cost implications that we just don't know about yet. So it's definitely a big risk.
I agree with the point that you're making. I mean, I'll take my own borough. We currently have 27,000 people on out-of-work benefits. 17,000 are on IB, around 7,000 or 8,000 on GSA, and a couple of thousand on lone parent benefit. What we are being told is they're going to be moved back into the labour market to get jobs. What I also know in my borough is there aren't any jobs for them. So I question, well, what are we going to do with them then? And what are the outcomes we're looking for when we put them onto programmes? Because history tells us you run people around on programmes going nowhere, they just become more disillusioned and disaffected and drop out the system. We need destinations for them.
Say if you keep 17,000 on IB, when not necessarily all of them need to be on IB, you completely wipe out the rest of their lives.
Yes,
so,
and we need to get them off. But I come back to the point, this is not just a supply side problem, it's a demand side problem, and we need to create some form of employment for them to go to. Talking to the providers, if they're getting paid by results, and results are jobs, how are they going to get paid? Because there's a huge risk for them here if they're not going to place them somewhere. Now what the providers are talking to us about, guess what, is creating a job creation programme, so they've got a destination. So yes, it's worthwhile for the individuals, and we'd want to do that. FJF was one of the biggest successes we ever had. But they also need to put them somewhere in order to get paid. Or they've got, them or their subcontractors have got a real problem further down the track. Coupled to this, those 17,000 on IB, and I want to get them off. It isn't our aim and objective in life to keep them there, but they're all going to lose the benefits as well. They're going to lose council tax benefit. They're going to lose housing benefit. They are not going to be very happy people mandated onto a programme which isn't going to give them a job. Now, who's picking up the consequences of that? We are as a local authority. Our problem is we're having our budgets cut hugely, and the biggest budget cuts in local authorities are in the areas of highest worklessness. Now, someone's got to piece all this thing together and try and make it work, and we are not sure yet how this is going to play out. And I come back to, at the very least, the providers and local agencies are going to have to get their heads together around this to try and make some sense of it, or we're going to get some real problems in 3 or 4 years' time.